Great. Thanks for joining me today. Yeah, it's a great opportunity for us to get together and get to know the winemaker up close and personal, I guess. Not face to face, but this is the next best thing. So the purpose of today, as I said, to get to know you. So I've got 10 questions for you, and well, you can feel free not to answer some if you don't want to, if they're too personal, but I don't think I've got any in there, so you should be fine. So my first question for you today is, what's your earliest wine memory?
Okay, my earliest wine memory comes from pre-Pfeiffer's, actually. So my parents bought what is now Pfeiffer Wines in 1984, and prior to that, my dad was a winemaker at Lindemans, and as part of his career at Lindemans, he worked in many places around Australia. But when I was a little girl, he worked at a winery in Caradoc, which is near Mildura. Now, Dad was really busy, and we didn't get to see him as much as I guess we wanted to. So Mum would take us over to the winery to visit Dad, and the winery just would emanate with this smell of fermenting white juice, because they made a lot of white wine where Dad was. And this fermenting white juice to me was what I associated with visiting my dad. And so when I came back home as an adult and started my winemaking career, when we started making white wine, I had that beautiful memory of being a little girl walking around the cellar at Lindemans and that smell of fermenting white wine, and how excited I used to be to visit my dad.
Fantastic memory to have. What would you say is your winemaking style?
Okay, so I like making full, richly flavoured reds and crisp, elegant white wines. I like my wines, all of my wines, whether it's sparkling, white, red, to have a line of flavour. Now, that's sort of a weird thing to say. I appreciate that. But what I mean about that is how you experience it in your mouth. I want the wine to run across the mouth like that, in a beautiful line, not be sort of fat and flabby and sort of go like that, just to have that lovely line of flavour. And that gives the wine great length. So I think that's the hallmark of all my wines. But you know, in the reds, I like richness, I like depth, I like fullness. I like wines to be ripe but not overripe. I like tannin and I like body, and I love Shiraz. So that try the Pfeiffer Shiraz. That's something I'm very proud of. Crispness, elegance, lovely expressions of fruit, and a real purity of that fruit flavour. And then, you know, with the fortifieds, which I'm absolutely so passionate about, and here in Rutherglen, as you know, we are world famous for our fortified wines. The Pfeiffer style, which I've been lucky to evolve, is one that's based on freshness, and that's because of our age. I remember when I first came home, and we would do group tastings of our fortified wines with the local wineries. And Pfeiffers were there tasting our wines against the Morris family, the Chambers family, Stanton and Colleen, Campbell's, All Saints, all of the big names. And these wineries have all been going for 150 years or thereabouts, and they have beautiful age and concentration. And I would taste these wines and I'd think, you know, that Morris wines has got so much fruit and so much power, and the Chambers wines have great age and complexity, and the Campbell's wines have this beautiful pure fruit and lovely aromatics. The Stanton and Colleen wines has great tannin and great power. And so what's the Pfeiffer wines going to have? And because we were younger, you know, and we didn't have 150 years of age behind us with the age stocks, our hallmark has become the beautiful freshness of the wines. And they're lovely and elegant, and they've got that line of fruit. And that's become the Pfeiffer style, which is, you know, our trademark now, and I love it.
And we love it.
Thank you.
And what I also love is, you know, you've talked very passionately about the other wineries in Rutherglen, and we can see that too, that sense of community, and, you know, you all get on. And I think that's you got history together, and it's just wonderful to see. And when we visit Rutherglen, and when I bring my visitors to Rutherglen, it's very obvious that there's that sense of community, and people go home with that sense of family, and it's really good. We love it. So keep it up, Rutherglen.
Oh, thank you. I mean, I don't remember this particularly, but my parents have told me how everyone was so kind to them when we started our business, and one of the first people who came to visit them were the Campbell family, and just with an offer to help, and in our very early days, the Campbells would bottle all of our wine for us because we didn't have a bottling line, and would assist with that. David Morris has been a huge mentor to me. So it's wonderful to be able to draw on the experience and the help of your community. And I think that's one of the really unique things about Rutherglen.
Yeah, fantastic. Thanks, Jen. What do you think the hardest thing is about winemaking year in, year out?
Well, there's a few tough things about winemaking. This is a great question. One of the hardest things is that it's an annual pursuit, I suppose. So we only get the one vintage per year to make our wine. So we get one shot, and we are very much dependent on nature. So if we have a really wet year with too much rain, we can get a lot of disease in our fruit, and that's very hard to make the quality wine that we want to make. Likewise, this year there was excessive heat, bushfires, and so that creates more challenges for us as well. So that is, not being. We want to be able to control everything, but not being able to control everything is hard. I think the other thing that is difficult with wine is that the trends move pretty quickly, and wine's slow. If you plant a vine, you're probably at best 3 years from getting a crop of that vine. And you're probably 10 years from getting really great fruit off that vine. So to try and predict what's the next big thing in wine, what are people going to want to drink in 10 years, and try to stay across those trends is pretty tricky, I think.
It's very tricky, and we're very fickle, aren't we?
Well, we can be. I mean, it's funny, you've seen, like I say to people, like in the 90s, everyone drank Chardonnay, and Australian Chardonnay couldn't get enough of it, those big, bold, buttery, woody Chardonnays. And then in the noughties, everyone had enough of those Chardonnays, and they went to Sauv Blanc, and Sauv Blanc was just eaten a bit, and there was just Sauv Blanc everywhere. And then from Sauv Blanc, I guess Pinot Grigio has become quite fashionable. And I think now maybe Prosecco is going to be the next big thing. I don't know. You heard it first.
Okay, I'll take that on board and see what happens with that. But I actually think Chardonnay is making its way back too. I mean, our unwooded Chardonnays are becoming quite popular again, which is a great thing. And I'm always encouraging the tour goers to have a to try the Chardonnays. They have memories of that, like you said, the very buttery, oaky Chardonnays, and some people just weren't into that. Or they were, and they weren't. But so I'm encouraging them to keep trying that, because I think that's something to look out for, in my opinion. I'm really loving it at the moment. So
yeah, well, I agree 100%.
Oh well, good. I'm glad I'm on the right track there.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So in terms of that question, there's been a lot of challenges year in, year out, but this particular year's been very challenging, and now with the COVID. So yeah, you can't control everything, and I guess you just have to throw your arms up in the air, put your feet up a bit, and go, well, ride it all out. In the world of wine, who inspires you?
That's easy.
What, Lil Tipsy Tours?
So absolutely. I think it's great what you're doing, bringing people around, having a really fun day out, and that's inspirational to us all, because we want someone like you who's so proud of our region to to showcase it and be that fantastic guide to show people around. So well done.
All right, back to you.
Well, I guess the main inspiration for me are people who have had that really big effect on my career. And, you know, obviously my dad has had a huge influence on my career and has been my number one mentor. But there's some other, I guess the other really big influences on my career are some of the great fortified winemakers in Australia, but also I have one from Portugal where I've worked. So James Godfrey, who's the chief fortified winemaker for Treasury Wines, so he handles Penfolds, Wolf Blass, that type of thing. He's been a huge influence on my career and has taught me so much about making fortified wines particularly. And David Morris, who is possibly the cuddliest guy in Rutherglen, he's been a huge influence on my career. And David Guimarães, who was my boss when I worked in Portugal, who was just so passionate, so unbelievably passionate about port wine. He's had a huge influence on my career as well. So those guys really inspire me with their knowledge and their willingness to share. And I think as I go on in my career, I hope I can be that person to someone as well, you know, so it can really help inspire someone in their journey in wine. That would be amazing.
Absolutely. Well, I'm sure. Another question for you. Regardless of cost, what makes a good wine?
Great fruit. That's the easiest thing. If you give 10 winemakers the same grapes, you will get 10 different wines because every winemaker has their own style. But if you give them amazing grapes, each 10 of those wines will be amazing. Different, but amazing. To me, having the grapefruit is the number one key. The other little things that help make great wine or help make good wine great is attention to detail. That's a huge thing in the winery. So really making sure our I's are dotted and our T's are crossed, keeping things done in a really timely manner, bottling wines when they're ready to be bottled, all of those kind of things, not keeping wine in oak too long. That's really attention to detail, and that's super important. And I think in terms of red wine, you can't beat oak. Barrels are fantastic. If I was allowed to buy one thing for red wine, it would be oak barrels. Absolutely.
That sounds good to me. So, I'm just in what you were saying there about the attention to detail, and that's exactly what you get in Rutherglen.
Yeah, absolutely. And Rutherglen's got an amazing history of success in the wine industry. You know, we are one of the oldest regions in this country, and so we've got literally centuries of experience in making wine, and all those little, hints that get passed on from generation to generation that affect how we make wine today is just amazing to have in our armour, and I think there's some absolutely knockout wines here in Rutherglen.
Absolutely. Yeah, I do have a Rutherglen palate myself.
Good girl. Me too.
What do you love most about the Rutherglen region?
Oh, I think we've covered it. The people and the wine. Rutherglen's my home. You know, my parents bought the winery when I was 4, and I grew up here. So I grew up playing hide and seek in the cellar, riding my bike through the vineyard, seeing the town develop and change, and then enjoying huge success in my career here. So, it's a really special place for me. But what makes Rutherglen so special and so unique, I think, is that it's genuine. We're really, honest, genuine, earthy people, and I love that about our region, and I think it comes through in the wines. The wines are made with great passion and great care, and they're honest, and I like that. But I think we've got a great region, and as we were saying before we started, I can't wait to welcome people back to our region.
Yeah, same here. Ooh, in your opinion, what is the most interesting thing happening in the world of wine at present?
That's good. Well, I guess it's forced. It's been forced upon us with COVID. I think looking at how everyone's seeking other avenues to market. So I guess traditionally speaking, in Rutherglen, nearly every winery is associated with the cellar door. And we've sold a lot of our wines through the cellar door and to local restaurants and things like that. And obviously, with COVID and the restrictions, we haven't been able to do that. And so, looking at how people are using online to market themselves, things like doing this Zoom chat with you, Tiff, is a great initiative. And seeing how that space is changing and that space is opening up, I think is really interesting and is moving really, really quickly. And perhaps will, be utilised more in the future because of what's happening right now. So I think that's pretty interesting. I think in terms of what's happening from a winemaking perspective, I think people are really pushing the boundaries in Rutherglen in Australia at the moment. Whether it's trying to do really old school, old world techniques that have been around for 400 years, like fermenting things in clay amphoras. We've got I don't know if you've seen the ceramic egg that we've got at our winery, which
I have seen that, and I always tell everyone that that's morgue.
Well, it's full of Chardonnay, so we'll see how we go. We don't want to drop it, I can tell you. But trying things like that is, I think, is really exciting and adds a dimension to the wine that we haven't had before. Working with new varieties. If you sort of think back to the 90s, it was very, we were a Chardonnay, a Riesling, a Shiraz and a Cabernet kind of society. And the world of alternate varieties has opened up, and there's just so many more varieties to uncover, and trying to discover what's the best ones to plant here is really, really fun and really exciting. And I think, there's a big future in Rutherglen for the Portuguese and Spanish varieties. And I think over time, we're going to see more and more of them planted here and make some delicious wine. So that's pretty exciting.
That does sound good, and I can't wait to try them. Here's one. What has been your biggest lesson so far in regards to daily life with the coronavirus?
You've got all the good questions.
I do.
I think it's to be, take that time to be really respectful of each other is probably the biggest thing. I think, COVID's affecting people differently. Some people are experiencing a high level of anxiety. Some people are feeling very isolated. And, in our interactions with people, however they come through telephone, Zoom chats, however they come, I think it's just to keep, to be respectful of people and be mindful of all of that, and that we don't necessarily understand what everyone's going through. And that we really do need to care for each other and look out for each other. And I think sometimes, in the hustle and bustle of our everyday life pre-COVID, we can get a little bit, tunnel vision and not be so considerate of other people. And I think that's one of the great things to have come out of it. There is a greater sense of care for each other, and that I'm certainly feeling, more aware of that as well.
Yeah, I have to agree there. Yep. Lots of love and caring and just slowing down, I think, it's been really wonderful.
Yeah.
I found that slowing down is not something that I'm used to. I'm sure you're not used to either.
No, sorry, go.
So go ahead.
I don't have kids, but, my friends who have kids say that they've really, because they've been homeschooling and things like that, they've seen their kids become closer and, they've become closer as a family because they're spending more time together. And so things like that are really positive to come out of all of this. And people saying, yeah, they've taken the time to read a book or paint or whatever whatever they've wanted to do and haven't had that opportunity because they've been so busy. you know, finding that opportunity is good. And so there are definitely some positives we can take from this.
There certainly are. Anyway, that concludes our 10 questions, I think.
Ooh,
We covered.
that went fast.
It did go fast. And perhaps next time we'll do a TikTok.
What's a TikTok?
Oh, isn't it one of those? You haven't just seen them on the internet, you know, this TikTok craze. I think you've got to do a little video skit in under a certain amount of time or something. I don't know.
Oh, yeah. I haven't seen them. I've heard about them.
Perhaps we won't.
I'm too old.
Same here. Thanks for your time though, Jen, and have a great day. And I cannot wait to see you back in at Salvador.
Yeah, hopefully we can, you know, restrictions get eased, and, you know, particularly for your business, you can invite people back on your tours again soon, and come out and say good day. We'd love to welcome you.
Really, I'm hoping for that. I'm getting some inquiries coming through now, so that's really positive. Yes, working on that exit strategy is the next step, and So
one thing I think, you know, look, when people are allowed to travel, even within Victoria, I think people are itching to get out and just, you know, experience life. So hopefully that helps our region economically, you know, and hopefully, yeah, we stay on, as a country, we stay on top of COVID so that we don't have to go into lockdown again. I think that's probably everyone's biggest concern from a business point of view.
Yeah.
If we open up, we want to stay open.
Frustrating as it may be, I think, yeah, taking it slow is key, in my opinion, because, yes, you don't want to, you know, have an outbreak and then have to go back into really strict isolation. That just wouldn't be good. So we may as well nip this and get back to doing what we do best.
Yeah, absolutely. So I look forward to welcoming you with a lovely glass of Pfeiffer Shiraz very soon.
I'm very excited. Thanks, Jen.
Thanks, Tiff. Take care.
Yeah, you too. And thank you so much. It's been great.
No worries at all. My pleasure. Anytime.
I'll see you soon.
Okay, bye.
Bye.